This is the DTV Digest, the podcast that brings you news and reviews of films which didn't make it to the cinema. And now, here's your host, Mike Parkin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the DTV Digest. I'm your host, Mike Parkin, and joining me, as usual, are Richard Hawes.
Hello, everyone.
And Stephen Lockridge.
Hello.
We've got 4 big films to discuss this week. We're going to kick off with Dormouse. Then we have 97 Minutes, The Bigfoot Trap, and The Breach. Then our short shot is Dead End, Dead Man Walking. And we're going to round off with our DTV throwback, Dolph Lundgren in Pentathlon. So without further ado, let's crack on. Our first review then is Dormouse. Mouse is a comic book artist supplementing her art with a job as a burlesque performer at a seedy bar called Mama's. When Doe Eyes, one of the other performers, goes missing, Mouse goes looking for her in some dangerous places. I recall seeing the trailer for this a while ago, and it pricked my mind, Steve, when this came up. You know, I thought, oh, finally, this is coming up. You know, this is right up my street. I absolutely love this, 100%. I don't think it puts a foot wrong. It's got great performance right in the center, and then he got the guy called Ugly, who's like the spitting image of Terence Trent D'Arby. But I'm a big fan of these sort of you know, these films about amateur sleuths. You know, sort of people who it's not their job to be a detective. You know, they're not a cop, they're not a private investigator or anything like that. You know, they're just someone put into this situation using their, you know, their guile and their instincts and intuition to try and sort of solve something, and at the same time sort of getting themselves deeper and deeper into trouble. I'll talk about this a bit more in a minute. How did you get on with this?
Yeah, I enjoyed this. It was a bit different than I thought it was going to be, to be fair. It's quite noirish and everything like that. But then you've got the stylistic choice as well, you know, like the little animated segment.
Yeah.
Which, obviously, you know, she's like a comic book writer. But I just thought they actually worked really, really well. Because sometimes when they do things like that, it can be a bit jarring.
Yeah.
But in this, because it is kind of, I don't want to use the word quirky, but I'm going to have to, really. It's like a, you know, quirky noir. But like you said, I thought the performances were really good. The way it was shot, it just, it did work. It really did work for me.
Yeah, so Hayley Law plays Mouse. She's one of these sort of characters who, you know, she doesn't get a backstory or anything like that. You know,
No.
She's got skills, but we never find out how she got them, sort of thing. You know, at some point in her life, she learned how to fight. She learned how to have a gun. She's incredibly calm and under pressure. You know, in tough situations. You know, she's almost like a classical sort of Marlowe kind of character. You know, sort of Humphrey Bogart in a way. But you know, she does have flaws because she is. You know, is very closed off emotionally. You know, she's got this friend who's like, you know, love unrequited and all this sort of stuff. At the same time, you know, she gets involved with this drug dealer called Mooney. And there's a quite funny bit where she just goes, "Don't fucking judge me," you know, to the audience, basically. That's quite funny.
She's seen some shit, I think.
Yeah.
I think the palace.
That's basically it. Yeah, and people are constantly sort of underestimating her as well. It's, you know, there's a couple of great conversations she has. One with Mooney, and one with this pimp called Crawdaddy. That whole sequence with him, I thought was brilliant. You know, he's and he realizes, like, shit, you know, I've kind of underestimated this person, which I thought was quite good. Yeah, it's I think it's a great film. It's got a bit of a sort of punk aesthetic to it. The soundtrack is full of very sort of punky girl band kind of stuff, which kind of reminded me actually of oh god, what's the Edgar Wright film? Scott Pilgrim.
Scott Pilgrim, yeah.
Sex Bomber Bomb, Sex Bomb. They reminded me a lot of that. I thought it was very good. I'm not going to spoil anything that happens. I will say, of course, that Famke Janssen's in this, playing Mama. Still holding her own, absolutely. We've also got Donald Logan in this as well.
I didn't realise it was him till about halfway through.
Yeah, playing a bit of a weird character for him because he's a total sort of wet fish, isn't he? Basically, in this, he's a bit of a damp squib. No sort of toughness to the character at all. But yes, this is awesome. Basically, I thoroughly enjoyed it. This is a film that will join my own personal collection. I will be looking out for this. Well, assuming it comes out in a physical form, certainly. Okay. So how are you going to score it, Steve?
I'll give it an 8.
Yeah, this is a very, very solid 8. I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed it. If you're like me, if you like a bit of a sort of detective story, a bit of a hard-boiled sort of noir tale, this is it. This is really, really good. 2 8s for Dormouse. Go check it out. Our next review is 97 Minutes. A passenger plane flying from London to New York is hijacked over the Atlantic with 97 minutes of fuel left on board. The NSA discovers one of their own operatives is on board pretending to be one of the terrorists, but can he do anything to prevent the plane being shot down before it reaches the US? I was really pleasantly surprised by this film, guys. I had no idea what it was going to be when we went into it because, it's a screener that we get sent, we get a link. I hadn't bothered to check out the artwork for it or anything like that. So I didn't know what sort of film it was going to be. And I was really, really impressed with this. We've seen a few films to do with this sort of thing, hijacks on planes, that sort of thing. This isn't a mega budget film by any means, but it has got a good cast. It has got, for the most part, a decent script. I think there is one a bit of a plot hole in it, which we may discuss, or we may discuss after we finish talking. But I thoroughly liked this. I thought it was very good indeed. Steve, over to you.
No, just no.
No, oh, shame.
I mean, I'll be honest, right? Going into it, I didn't have my hopes up because I don't know if you listened to Ross and Phil's last podcast.
I haven't listened to it for a while.
No, Ross this is his worst film of the year so far.
Well, he obviously hasn't seen Pursuit then, has he?
And he's not seen Skidmore on it neither. However you bloody pronounce it.
Yeah.
That's it, yeah. So
I think I can change his mind.
Yeah, so I'll be honest, when he mentioned it, I thought, hang on, I'm sure we've got that lined up this week. So yeah. Right, I'll give you, it's got a good cast. Right? Jonathan Rhys-Meyers, Alec Baldwin, Joe Martin, Anna Burning, people I like. But the script is awful. I really couldn't get into the script at all.
No.
And then I thought it was edited really badly. It's all over the place. And you can tell it's on a budget because there's people only sat in one section of the plane and that's about it. And there's about 30 of them. And it was just, no, it didn't work. And then you've got the supposed twists.
Yeah, which I enjoyed, I will say. Yeah.
Right. I just no. I couldn't get on board with it at all. It's not the worst film I've seen this year. I will disagree with Ross Boyask in that respect, but it just felt kind of amateurish. It needed. I think they're trying to stretch the budget too much.
Interesting. Rich, maybe you can sort of decide this for us. Yay or nay?
I'm on your side with this one.
There's a shot.
No, I did. I was really pleasantly surprised. I mean, unlike you, I had seen the poster and stuff. The UK artwork is very much in the same. They basically copied the design that's been used for. I think. Well, I know it was used on like 10 Minutes Gone, the Bruce Willisy kind of thing. So I was expecting a kind of Bruce exploitation kind of movie. And Alec Baldwin is kind of doing that role in this, but his role is actually pretty substantial. The film moves between two locations, so you've got the stuff on the plane, and then you've got like the control room thingy kind of stuff downstairs, which is very much like the Turbulence series of movies. Well, the sequels, I would say, but this feels like a really solid, higher end almost version. That you know, it felt unlike usually these DTV movies these days feel cheaper than the ones that came before. This one actually feels like it's more expensive than films like the Turbulence sequels, and it's got the Alec Baldwin factor works really well, and we saw her in Andron, where that was very much a kind of dodgy, they've hired him and shot him by himself, and it just doesn't really work very well kind of thing. In this one, I felt like he'd walked in like he was basically playing the same character he played in the last two Mission Impossible movies. Yeah, he's not in the new one, but he's essentially playing that character. He's looking a bit more weathered now. You can start to see some, the age is starting to really show, with bags under his eyes and stuff. But he's still, he's got such a fantastic presence, and he seems to be really quite committed to, the role as it is. It's a small cast. It's him and like two other people delivering a lot of expositional dialogue kind of stuff, but it's quite engaging. The stuff on the plane, it like kicks off straight away. There's no like waiting around. It's just straight in, which I quite liked. And the atmosphere's there. I think the cinematography is really good. The whole environment of the plane works very effectively. Sure, it's not non-stop level, but it, in a way, it's kind of that halfway house of. It is still quite fantastical in terms of the space and moving around the plane and whatever, but also quite relatable. Whereas like planes in movies generally don't feel like real life plane experiences. So this is kind of a halfway house. I think they've the budget has sort of worked to their advantage, I think, in that sense. Yeah. So however, wherever they filmed it or whatever, it's got the same sort of sense of claustrophobia using the environment and stuff. The twists and turns that the plot has are quite fun. It does a couple of sort of about turn kind of things at the end, which again, sort of it is very much in keeping with not the twist end, but the sort of the way the conclusion. It's one of those we got to land the plane kind of endings. Conclusions to the film, which is very much it's like an
executive decision sort of thing.
Airport, all that stuff, basically anything. To me, this did feel like it is kind of Die Hard on a plane kind of thing, but more effective. Like what the problem with Passenger 57 was, it's got that Die Hard on the plane kind of concept. He's barely on the plane. That's right. He's barely on the plane in that film, so it never really satisfied as a Die Hard on a plane. Whereas this is kind of doing that, and I think it's more satisfying. It's more of a thriller, but it's got the action. I thought the action was really good when it happened. And so I didn't know anything about the filmmakers going in, and there's nothing at the start of the movie or anything. And it was only at the end that I see all these like foreign names popping up, and I'm like, my interest is being piqued. And then it turns out it's from the director of the blooming Iron Sky films.
I know. Yeah.
So we've got a good, stylistic director at the helm here, which explains a lot, I think.
It must be so refreshing for him to actually have his whole budget available at once, rather than having to sort of eke out a film over like a year or two.
This is the first kind of one that he did Jeepers Creepers Reborn, which I haven't seen.
That's true. Yeah, I haven't seen.
I heard it's not very good, but he's kind of moved away from these like crowdfunded or whatever personal projects to these more mainstream sort of hired gun kind of jobs, I guess. But not. I thought this was really good. This is the kind of film I would have sat down and watched like you know, I could watch with my other half, could watch with my nan, or you know, it's that kind of accessible, you know, enjoyable, fairly mainstream. It's not too wild. Chariot was another film
Chariot was
I'd
another
liken
good
it
one,
to,
yeah.
because I really like that. It was very low budget and that worked it really well. That was all set on the plane for the most part.
That actually had no exterior shots, did it? It was literally
That's
all
right,
in the cabin. Jonathan Rhys Meyers is our main character on this one, and
I thought he was really good.
He's choosing some very interesting projects, I think. You know, and we've covered a few of them. Map at the End of the World.
Yeah, that was interesting, and also we saw him in Ambush recently.
Yeah,
but I thought this was a lot better. It's than like something like Ambush for him.
What was the one set in China?
Oh yeah.
The assassin
like
thing.
Yakuza Princess.
Yakuza Princess. Yeah, that was quite interesting.
That was a good one. And before that, he did Black Windmill or Black Butterfly, one of the two.
Black Butterfly
with Antonio Banderas.
Yeah,
and you've seen him in other things like American Carnage or American Heist or something like that.
Something along those lines.
I mean, he's never stops working. This guy, he's very, but he's one of those guys people don't really talk about very much. But he's a very good actor, and he kind of moves between all these different projects. Damascus, I can't remember what it was, but that's another one. He's got so many films that are on my list that I really need to get around to. Sometimes I enjoy him and sometimes I don't. But I think in this, he actually really worked very well, I thought.
But his character. He's. I mean, there is a sort of through line of a sort of artistic consistency. I think they're not. He's not doing Pursuit, is what I'm saying. He's not doing Pursuit or Fortress kind of films. They are definitely a bit above that. Okay. So, Steve, you didn't enjoy it as much as we did, but what are you going to score it?
I'll give it a 6.
Okay. And Rich?
I'm going to go for a 7.
I agree. This is a solid 7, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Very entertaining. It is DTV. That the budget shows every now and again, but for the most part, this is very solid. There is a great bit where they've been trailed by a US fighter, and how horribly wrong that whole sequence goes. I thought it was great. But yes, so 2 7s and a 6 for 97 minutes. Go check it out. Our next film is The Bigfoot Trap. Kyle is a video journalist known for making snarky interviews which ridicule their subject. When his latest film goes viral, his boss gives him a new assignment to document a trip with Red Wilson, who believes that Bigfoot is real and has built his own trap to capture one. Again, knew nothing about this going in. We've had a lot of Bigfoot movies of late, last couple of years or so. I'm sure we've covered more than one on the show. Again, and in fact, there's one we did which has a premise almost identical to this, but
I'm going to say something like it,
but played it for laughs.
Yeah.
Whereas this one plays it pretty straight. And in fact, I think there's a lot of nuance to this, and it's kind of like if the Coen brothers made a Bigfoot movie. It's one of these sort of things where nothing happens the way it should happen, and then it just keeps getting worse. And I like that sort of story, the way it all piles on. But I think it's got a decent script and it's got some decent characters. There's one particular bit which is pretty obvious, of course that's happening. But the rest of it I thought was very good. I was, again, pleasantly surprised. So who's seen this one? Richard?
Yeah, I went in with completely different expectations to what it actually ended up being. So the UK cover art does very much sell it as a horror movie. And I would say that has it got the quote on it about Blair Witch with a Bigfoot
twist?
Yeah,
which I think is very misleading because it isn't a found footage film in any
manner. That's what I say. I thought it was going to be like a found footage film, but it's got it's monster cover kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it looks like a horror movie. It is not a horror movie.
No.
There's horror elements to it, but it's much more like you're kind of saying. It's more of a character study kind of sort of, not drama, but like not blackly comic, like more comical, but not comedy. It's more about these characters and their conversations and their interaction. What I would liken it to, I know a lot of people might not have seen this, but we watched a film a couple of weeks ago called The Integrity of Joseph Chambers.
Yes.
Where this guy goes out into the woods, ends up, trying to be, Clayne Crawford. He's trying to sort of feel the big man and, go on a hunting trip, but he's actually really, ill prepared for it. And, he ends up shooting someone or whatever. And there are some similarities going on with this one. This is a lot better than that. I mean, it's more consistent. It's got a better, more engaging tone, more mainstream tone. But I thought the character, the way the characters are drawn was really good. There's growth and development of the characters. Yeah. So you got the lead interview guy. All the setup stuff at the start completely gripped me straight away. With his
little segments, like the flat earther and stuff. Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm drawn in. I'm really curious about what's going to happen here. I thought it was going to be one thing when he goes out, and then it's going to turn into a full-on horror movie, which it isn't. It is very much focused on the Bigfoot trap of the title, but what they use the trap for.
Yeah, because it does set itself up with that. Because you got that prologue when we find out what happens to their friend Hector, and then it sort of jumps ahead. But the bulk of it isn't about horror exactly. It's just a horrible situation that these characters find themselves in.
And the guy who's like the Bigfoot hunter character, him and his mate, he's very well drawn, and it's a really good performance. You like the guy, and then you feel, you're feeling a bit sorry for him, and then he's you're not sure how dangerous he might be and stuff. And there's I was really pleasantly surprised. This is not this is filmed, the director Aaron Mertz seems to have quite an expensive. Have we?
Yeah, he directed a film called Painted in Blood, which we watched.
He did that. He directed that one as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is the one about the guy who becomes a security guard at an art gallery.
Yeah.
And,
gotcha. Yeah, I saw he's got a massive IMDb. Tons of stuff as producer and director. Some stuff that's been sort of on my radar of wanting to check out. So I mean, there's other stuff like the Octo games, which just sort of looks like a Squid Game kind of cash-in kind of thing, whatever. But I think Painted in Blood actually wasn't too bad. That was quite.
Yeah, we enjoyed that one.
Interesting stuff going on. But I really did like this quite a lot.
I did. There's a bit towards the end where Red delivers this sort of monologue, and it's kind of devastating.
And it's left field. The whole thing.
Yeah.
It's like,
the whole character of Red is
a film that really surprises you.
Yeah, because the whole character of Red, he totally wrong-foots you, because you think he's going to be this sort of typical redneck, sort of yokel kind of guy, but he's actually very articulate, very intelligent. Quite self-effacing. He's not blind to the fact that people are going to look at him as some crazy guy and all the rest of it. So he knows he's got a lot riding on this particular video, it being successful. So that final conversation is like, oh my god, so well done.
And it didn't. And the end, on the whole stuff, all the stuff that happens at the end as well, like the very end. I thought that was a great capper and worked really well, and sort of brings things kind of full circle and takes things in a completely different direction, which is exactly what the right thing to have done. It could have ended at a different point, but they actually make some really interesting decisions for the characters. It was like really. I was kind of blindsided by how good it was, really.
Yeah, same here. On that note, Rich, how are you going to score it?
Yeah, it's another very solid 7, that one.
Yeah, definitely. 2 7s for the Bigfoot Trap. Don't judge a book by its cover, etc., etc. This is very good indeed. Go check it out. Our next review is The Breach. When a badly mutilated body is discovered adrift in an abandoned canoe, the local police chief, pathologist, and local guide head upriver and discover an old secluded house where a particle physicist has been conducting weird experiments. It was a toss-up, Steve.
Yep.
Which film we were going to lead with today? Because I like to sort of start off with one of the stronger films that we were reviewing.
Yeah.
And it really was a toss-up between Dormouse and The Breach, because oh my god, I absolutely love this. I love this sort of film, which is it's another investigative kind of thing, but with horror basically. So we got these three people who arrive at this old abandoned house sort of thing, trying to figure out what happened, what is happening, and then sort of weird shit starts to happen as well on top. How did you get on with this?
I really enjoyed this, actually. For once, I think I agree with you. Yeah, it just, starts out as countless other, cop movies where he's on bleeding or last day.
Yeah, so the week before moving to the big city, isn't it? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And then when this body just turns up, but it's not really a body, it's like mush. And it's really, really weird. And then they go looking, they think they know who it is, and they go looking for answers. But I kind of like that, you've got the main guy, the woman, and the other guy, and there's a bit of a love triangle going on there.
Yeah.
And then he gets injured and he starts thinking, and then you've got the actual finding the place. It kind of, do you remember the one we mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, the one with Charlotte Ritchie, where her husband's like builds this time machine where he goes back.
Oh
in time,
yeah. What was it called?
Okay.
Yeah.
But it kind of reminded me like a horror version of that. But it's just, I think it's just done really well, and also you can, with the like monster designs, you can tell they're done on the cheap, but it's really effective when you've got like two or three faces on the head and stuff like that. And I thought that worked really, really well. But really enjoyed it. Yeah. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, the film that reminded me of was it's an old Stuart Gordon film called From Beyond, with Jeffrey Combs, where he discovers a way of sort of jumping dimensions or whatever, and there's something along those sort of lines going on here. We got this weird machine in the attic, and we got this crazy scientist, who's trying to sort of right a wrong or something like that. It's a lot going on. But it's sort of, the atmosphere builds nicely. We get characters turn up who you're not expecting, and things like this. It is really well done, very articulate. There's a great sort of siege moment towards the end, and then you got this sort of kicker to finish off with. But the way it's filmed is really interesting, because the opening bit, we're following this canoe down this river, it goes over the rapids and all this sort of stuff, and then there's this really nice long shot of this family having a picnic or having a barbecue, and we just see the boat, the canoe just sort of eventually sort of drift into position, but they don't show what's in it until there's about sort of 2-3 scenes where people are reacting to it before we actually get to see it. So by that time we're going, what is it? What's going on? And it's only when the pathologist gets to see it, when they sort of got all the lights and everything. So it's like, you really want to see it? Well, here it is. The whole damn thing. I think was really, really well done. And it's all the
You
stuff
built
with
it
the,
up really, really well. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, the stuff with the insects freaked me out because I hate insects. Yeah, it's just like, fucking insects. There's that really weird bit because you got the deputy back at the back at HQ, and she's got the wasp in the jar, and then at some point there's like 2 wasps in the jar, and it's like, okay, well that is weird, but little clue as what may be going on. But yes, so this was directed by Rodrigo Gudinho, and we've come across his work before as well, or at least I have. He did a film called The Last Will and Testament of Rosalind Lee, which is miles apart from this. It's almost a one-man show about this guy going to his deceased grandmother's house, I think his grandmother or his aunt, to sort out her her estate, and she was part of a very ultra religious sect, almost a bit like Hereditary in that regard, it's bordering on a cult sort of thing. It was very good, really good film, very atmospheric, but miles different to the aesthetic of this film, and I must admit this is a lot more enjoyable, a lot more pulpy. I think the other one was a bit more sort of art house. This is very much a crowd pleaser, I think. How are you going to score it?
I'll give it another 8.
Yeah, this is definitely an 8. Like Dormouse, it's right up there. Definitely worth checking out. That is The Breach. 2 8s from us. Go check it out. Our short shot this week is Dead End, Dead Man Walking. This is the 3rd part of the Dead End series. After the botched job in Hong Kong, the operative heads back to his roots to lay low, but those on the other side want him out of the way for good. As mentioned, this is the 3rd installment. I don't think it's important to have seen the others, to be quite honest. You do get a feel for what the stakes are quite early on, especially when the operative has his conversation with his handler. Lots of familiar faces in this one, Rich.
Yeah,
both in front of and behind the camera.
Yeah, I was particularly interested to see that. Well, I was interested in the first 2, which we were fortunate enough to see at the Fighting Spirit Film Festival. The third one, this one did play there, but I didn't get to see it there.
Yeah,
I think that was the
COVID year.
Yeah. But it's basically actor Bryan Larkin's baby. This is the series that he's produced and starred in, and did direct actually the 2nd installment. This one's directed by Ross Boyask, who's someone we know, and funnily enough, we did mention him earlier because Steve was saying about the podcast that he does. So we're really interested in Ross's work. He's a really nice, interesting guy to talk to as well. But this has been kind of doing the festivals and all that sort of stuff. So I've been wanting to see it for absolutely ages. So it was great to see him put his sort of spin on it. He brings his own particular bag of tricks and whatever. He's got Greg Burridge, who's a friend of Ross's, is in the film as one of the antagonists. Probably the main. I think you'd say the main antagonist in the story. I think it's 25 minutes. It's good. It's really solid. It's got the strengths of the first couple, which is the fact that it's a very international series of films that pushed kind of the limits of what low budget action shorts. What you can expect from they started out because like Bryan Larkin was filming, conceiving them and filming them while he was working in foreign locales. So he was like working in Hong Kong and stuff. So then he gets the aerial shots and stuff to establish the location, and that all works really well. And here, this is taking place in like London and Scotland, which is also a bit different and gives it a little bit of a, I would say like there's a little bit of a Skyfall influence, I think, going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
With this one, but and I did enjoy it, but I would say as it's the Dead End trilogy is often gets referred to, I was expecting a kind of conclusion, and this is very much
no.
not a conclusion. No, there's and I think so. I was a little bit taken aback by that, but also the film makes a couple of because it's trying to cover a lot of ground in its short time, and there's a couple of leaps that I don't think quite work. There's or there's moments. There's like a whole long section where was it the investigator who's trying to basically looking for or working with Larkin sort of unofficially, and she spends a lot of time looking at like a pin, that kind of pinboard thing.
The conspiracy board sort of thing.
Yeah,
it's like,
and then
there's nothing there for us to follow. It's just random shit.
And it's quite a long scene, and it kind of goes on, and then suddenly, boom! That it leaps to like a confrontation kind of moment, which kind of seemed a bit sudden. And then there's a bit that happens at the end, which I won't mention about, but it just sort of seems. Well, hang on a minute. Yeah. I was a bit. It was almost like everything that's gone on in some of the preceding moments. You have to think. Wouldn't he have said something?
And then thought so. Yeah, that guy gets the award for worst dad of the year or worst dad of the century.
Yeah, I don't want to say but I'd say it's it's got all the slick production values and stuff. It's great. I mean, it's free. It's out there on YouTube. It's definitely worth a watch. I'd say watch the whole series. There's I am a little bit disappointed that it didn't conclude it. Although I am, that obviously that leaves it open for further adventures. Whether there's going to be another one, I don't know, because it kind of everything kind of went quiet, and it's all just been focused on these three at the moment. So I cross my fingers that there will be a next installment. Check them out, go support it, and hopefully if we get the good viewing numbers and whatever, and we will get it eventually.
Steve, what did you make of this? I mean, had you seen the previous episodes?
No, I hadn't, and I thought it might be better just to see where we just jumping in at this point, and actually it was good. It was decent. I've only just realised it was Ross directing it as well. Because we got to.
Well, his name only really comes up right at the end of the credits. It's actually quite unusual, because you'd expect directed by to come up when the film ends or when the film starts, but no, he's actually tucked away right at the end. So I thought that was quite interesting. So yeah, you enjoyed it even though you hadn't seen the other parts, yeah?
Yeah, it does work. It does flow quite well. I mean, a couple of bits I'm like, right, where's that come from? And then I'd say the not the worst bit, but the weirdest bit is the end. That very final, you're like, what?
Exactly.
It just seems a bit, I don't know.
Where on earth are they going to go with that? Why? It's just so bizarre. It really is.
Yeah. That's the bit I didn't get, but no, I thought the action was quite good. I mean, there's a couple of, it sounds daft, but there's a couple of shots of the house, just like establishing shots, and I just thought they looked really, really beautiful. They looked gorgeous. The house looked so nice and everything.
Well, the cinematography and the establishing shots are one of the hallmarks of this little series of films. They really add to the sort of scale and the production value.
Yeah, especially the one when they're in Hong Kong, I think, it's a lot to it. Okay, so we don't score the shorts, but we certainly recommend you check them out, and you will find a link to this in the footnotes below. Also, check out Bryan's other films, the other Dead End series. In case you're wondering where you may have heard him before, he was the SAS captain in London Has Fallen, who helps out old, what's his face?
Butler.
Yeah, old Jerry Butler. But also, I first really noticed him in a film called Chasing the Dragon, which is a Donnie Yen, Andy Lau film, sort of based on true characters, and he played this really bullish, sort of colonial British police sergeant, you know, and he was absolutely brilliant. He's a brilliant sort of bastard kind of character in that. Even though his voice was dubbed, it's still a brilliant performance. But yeah, very good actor indeed.
He was also recently, I didn't spot him, I don't think, but he was in Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Among Thieves.
All right, yes, I did remember seeing his name in the credits. Yeah, he gets about it.
And he appears all over the place.
Yeah.
He's got lots of interesting projects that he's worked on, but I do hope to see, you know, who knows, I don't know I can't remember what happened to his character in the Fallen movie, whether there's any chance that he might come back.
He survived. Yeah. He did survive, so you never know.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
so there you go. Link in the link in the footnotes below. Go check it out. Our DTV throwback this week is Pentathlon. During the Seoul Olympics in 1988, East German athlete Eric Brogar makes his bid to escape to the West, smuggling inside the US athlete's coach. Years later, Brogar is slowly rebuilding his life when his old handler, Heinrich Müller, arrives to terrorize a peace conference and intends Brogar to be the fall guy. So I'd never seen this film before. It did sort of pass me by, I must admit. But this is classic Dolph Lundgren. I think he's really, really good in this. Really gets to show off his athleticism, and you know, throws us a couple of accents along the way. But the star of the show for me is David Soul.
Absolutely.
I mean, what a star turn that is!
He's fantastic in this.
As Heinrich. He you know, it's like Casper Van Dien in Mad Heidi. It's that kind of role, a bit more refined than that. But I think he's absolutely great. You know, it's this sort of. But there's an exchange early on when Eric is trying to talk to the American athletes, and Heinrich turns up, and he starts talking down to like the black athlete. You know, they go, "You shall talk when you are spoken to," and all this sort of shit. It's like, what the, you know, he sort of shows himself off to be a like neo-Nazi kind of thing. But yeah, very enjoyable. Very, you know, not exactly a thriller for long periods of the film. You know, it's a weird sort of mix of like, you know, sports underdog movie. You know, trying to get fit again, doing all the training montages and that, and then, you know, the sort of thriller elements start to sort of come more to the fore. But it is an enjoyable film indeed. So Steve, had you seen this one before?
No, I hadn't actually. Yeah, it's like Rocky cross with Commando, isn't it? Really, it's, you know, it's that kind of vibe. I mean, the big issue is the budget. You know, they're supposed to be competing at the Olympics in Seoul. I think it was the '88 one. No, yeah,
88, yeah.
Where basically they're just in a park in California. You know, there's no glitz or glamour or anything else to, you know, it's
for the like the racing and stuff. It's all
it's all
they're running uphill, for God's sake. You know, it's like
exactly.
It's supposed to be on a track.
So, you know, it could need a bit of work on that, and the script it is a bit silly. You know, you can't deny that it's a bit daft, but it does kind of. I mean, David Soul is phenomenal. He's chewing every kind of scenery going, but it works. You know, I was listening to something today, and they're like, you know, the most over the top characters and stuff like that doesn't necessarily always mean a bad thing.
No, that's right.
And in this, it really, really works. He's phenomenal. I mean, I don't really know from Starsky. You know, when I was a kid, I don't really think of anything else that I've seen him really.
Everything else sort of falls to the background, doesn't it? Really.
Yeah. But yeah, in this, I thought it was absolutely cracking, and Dolph's great in it as well. Even the trainer.
Oh, Creasy.
They're all good in it, apart from the one bit that really didn't piss me off, but I just thought, what was going on here? Is when the German guy walks into his cafe and puts on the ghetto blaster.
The ghetto blaster.
What the hell was that? That's not dancing. It's like he's having an epileptic fit. And it's just ridiculous, that bit. But then these characters seem to come more to the fore, and he's just off his head.
Yeah.
And he's bizarre. His character is just absolutely bizarre.
There is an interesting moment in it where Eric Dolph is in a bar, and it's the fall of the Berlin Wall, which I can remember quite vividly, and you can sort of see it in his face, and he's like for fuck's sake, if I just sort of stuck around for like another 6 months, I could have walked out. You know what I mean? And sort of
he says that, doesn't he?
Yeah, and sort of leaving everything behind. But how was anyone to know? Yeah. This was pretty solid. It's directed by Bruce Malmuth, who had the pleasure of directing both Steven Seagal and Sylvester Stallone in Hard to Kill and Nighthawks, respectively. So a pretty solid, sort of thriller director. He's done other stuff as well, obviously, but for us here, those would be the ones that would sort of prick our ears. So yeah, a very solid work indeed. Any other thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I'll share a few thoughts. Well, this was actually, on the subject of Bruce Malmuth, this was his first and only film after Hard to Kill. I don't know why.
And it was 4 years after as well, I think. Was it?
Yeah, it was 4 years after. He passed away in 2005. So whether it was an illness or something or he was just very picky and just decided to retire or whatever, I don't know. But I think, really solid director. I think the film, one of the things that I really picked out of it was nobody uses sad saxophone anymore. It's like he's like moping around, and it's all like man. So very popular in the 80s and 90s.
So like the original, the early sort of like Lethal Weapon films was well known for it, wasn't it? It's sort of guitar twangs and saxophone.
So this is an interesting one because it's kind of pulled in a few different directions, and I think I know I have read and I've listened to stuff about it before, but I can't remember all the details. But I think it's a film that kind of was a bit compromised along the way and mixed up and stuff, which would explain why it sort of, why is it it starts out, it's like this, like you say, it's a drama basically of his defection and stuff, and how this weighs on him. The fact that his actions when he left had consequences, and he bears a weight for that and stuff. Although they sort of veer away from that a little bit more, and then you kind of get that that whole trope where he meets somebody who feels like he's found the golden egg kind of thing, and he's like, oh, I'm going to be your trainer now kind of thing, or whatever. We've seen that loads of times. So then you get the sports stuff and everything, but then in the background you got the stuff with David Soul, who was lingering around in the first act, but then sort of returns. He kind of wants revenge, but then he's also leading this neo-Nazi sort of action, terrorist group.
It's kind of funny, isn't it? You can almost imagine him being this sort of scuzzy guy who keeps sort of butting into meetings. It's like, oh god, it's Heinrich again. All right, Heinrich, what do you got for us now? What's your latest harebrained scheme? And all of a sudden, it's one that they went, actually, you know what? Yeah, that could work. Okay, good job, Heinrich. Let's go. Bring him with him. But then you got that bit at the end as well, where he's like almost like a tramp by this point when he sort of pulls his final sort of revenge, when he's got this this sort of Olympic windbreaker on and no shirt underneath. It's like, he's almost like Lionel Hutz by this point. Sort of sleeping in the dumpster kind of thing.
They try to combine this, him get Dolph Lundgren's character sort of getting back in the saddle. It's like he's gonna get over the past. He's gonna start, get back to do the pentathlon, and then the plot with David Soul's character kind of happens in tandem, and then they kind of try to tie the two together, and it's all a bit awkward.
Their trajectories heading in different directions, though, isn't it? So one's going up, one's coming down. But there is that moment as well, sort of at the end when he's conspiring to kill Dolph during this.
Well, that's what I mean. So all of a sudden you leap to the end of the sports bit, where it's like, here's the climax of the sports bit, and then they sort of add him in, and you have that confrontation, and then it just ends. It's like the most sudden ending ever. I just want to mention that the Creasy is played by Roger Mosley, from Magnum PI, and lots of other stuff. But Magnum PI, so that was pretty cool. So you've got, a guy from Magnum PI, you've got a guy from Starsky and Hutch. David Soul, this is probably the best thing I've ever seen him in. There's lots of stuff of his that I haven't seen. Obviously I know his some of his music career and things like that, but he's done. He actually ended up coming to the UK and living in London. I think he does a lot of stage work and Radio 4. I've listened to stuff in the past, so I'm familiar with certain aspects of stuff that he's done. And TV, I think he turned up on quite a few British TV shows as well. But this, I think, is for me, like, of the work that I've seen him do, I think he's great. I mean, he really carries the role. He's very convincing, I think, as this East German, very forceful. It's sort of a bit mixed up because they kind of present him as like a coach, but then it's like, oh, he's actually the secret police or something. It's like a bit of a combination. Some of the things in terms of the filmmaking, I found a bit funny. Like at the beginning, it literally comes up Soul 1988 while they're saying Soul 1988. I was like, wow, they really want to make it very, very clear where we are at this point in time. And say the sad saxophone, some of the stuff. Oh, there's a great stunt when Dolph Lundgren's escaping. And one of the people pursuing him gets his arm stuck in the bus, or the coach, or coach or bus, or whatever it is, and he's dragged along. It's a short moment, but that must have been quite risky to do that. So that's a pretty impressive stunt there. There's some other nice action and stunt work occasionally. There's a really good moment where Dolph is practicing his fencing with somebody who's not really done fencing before, and he's just so confident and cocky with it. He's just like, block, and he's just calm as a cucumber, and he's just doing it. He's very.
My name is Inigo Montoya, and you killed my father. Prepare to die. Yeah, it's that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So a really good showcase for Dolph, and so I suspect it was because he's a producer on this. His name comes up as a producer right at the start. I suspect this was a project that he was sort of egging along a bit, and I think it's overlooked. It went DTV here in the UK, as far as I'm aware. It was quite a low-key release, but definitely worth checking out. And the version online, which is on YouTube on the midnight screening, is widescreen as well, so that's really nice to see as well.
Absolutely. So yes, this is officially available on YouTube through the midnight screening, and we shall put a link in the footnotes below. Go check it out. And that is the end of this week's show. So thanks, guys, for watching these films. This has been one of the strongest weeks we've had in a long time. I think, nothing's, well, apart from Steve, nothing's scoring less than a 7. Steve spoiling the party once more, but
I'm a shithouse.
Can't help that. But this was all good stuff indeed. It certainly helps push the memories of Pursuit further and further at the back of my mind. Please check out these films. Check out Dead End 3, Dead Man Walking. Check out Pentathlon on YouTube. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Twitter at the DTV Digest. And don't forget to check out the Short Shots, where Rich puts a link to a new short every evening around about 8 o'clock. Thanks for listening. Tune in next time.
Thank you for listening to the DTV Digest. Let us know your thoughts in the comments and tune in again next time.